Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag faces a bit of a striker crisis. The Harry Kane deal is off, it's over, that will not be proceeding. He moves towards Victor Osimhen, and is he about to face another barrier there? Rasmus Hojlund, as we've been saying for a couple of weeks, is hotter than the sun. People are starting to pick up on that now. I do think Hojlund will be coming to Manchester United from what I've heard, but is that enough? And also, are United doing enough in relation to what is everybody's key priority position for United? We know that bid's gone in from Mason Mount for Mason Mount. I did that video earlier this evening. But what's happening with the striker? Goals win games. United haven't got enough of him. What are they going to do? Also, alarming news coming in from the Bundesliga. Min-jae, Bayern Munich, they're interested. Is that a problem for Manchester United? We don't normally win those sort of duels. Can we win that sort of duel? And also a bit of a concern coming from Newcastle, not only because they might be signing Barella, but that means they won't be signing McTominay. Maybe we missed the boat there on January. Lots to get into, as I say, lots more transfer stuff as well, and we'll get into your questions. But before we get into all of that, you might remember something that I'm about to show you. Yes. You know what this is. This is the Lawnmower 4.0. We're sponsored by Manscaped on the show today. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. What's Manscaped all about? Well, it's about trimming the grass to make the yard look bigger. It's for down there. This is the Lawnmower 4.0. It's got a light on it for a more precise shave if you want to do that. It's also waterproof as well. It's got electromagnetic induction charge point, so you just drop it in. There's no wires. You can adjust the length size if you want. You can't adjust the length size down there. I mean, just a bit around it. And also you can get 20% off and free worldwide shipping when you use the code, which should now be on the screen for you, United Stand. The link's in the description as well, or you can just scan that QR code next to me. Big shout out to Manscaped. Fantastic product. It really is. When you've got it in your hand, it's got a very familiar... Well, it's just very, very good products. And you can also get the Weed Whacker as well, which is for your nose. When you're around my age, look at that. It's really tearing into it. It's like trimming your grass. That's for down there. This is like, I don't know what this is like, but I love it. I love the Weed Whacker and I love the Lawnmower 4.0. Get yours through Manscaped with 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code United Stand exclusively for you. I think I've just got a nasal hair down my throat. Anyway, let's get moving. So, where should we start? Fabrizio Romano has come out and basically said that Erik ten Hag is disappointed. The Harry Kane deal is off. I'm quite happy about this, but sad. I don't know what you think in the chat, but ultimately I want to get your thoughts on the striker situation because we've got a bit of a threesome going on here. And not the threesome that you'd like, you dirty gets. I'm talking about the striker situation. We've had an early super chat from Arya who says, why are we interested on players who haven't proven that they are world class, such as Hojlund, Sesko, David Timber and Thuram at Mönchengladbach? Because that's who we are, Arya. That's what we do. I like those sort of signings. Ronaldo wasn't world class when we bought him from Lisbon. I actually quite like that. You've got to have a mix. What are your thoughts on Premier League clubs agreeing to prohibit fully leveraged buyouts of clubs? And does that mean Sir Jim can't buy us anymore, says Zix? Can we come back to that a little bit later because it's quite big and it basically means that the Glazers wouldn't have been able to buy us. Malps says Kane off. Yes. Well, I want to start off with this because I am really pleased that United have closed the door on Harry Kane. But I'm also sad. And you know what it is? It's a bit like somebody knocks on your door and it's an auntie and you want to invite them into the Christmas party, but then you remember they've been a bit of a bitch. So you slam the door on them and says it's your fault. And you walk away and you feel a bit sad because you've left them outside, but you remember they were a bit of a bitch and they don't deserve to come into your party and it's your party, but they've ruined it, not you. And you walk back into your party and you enjoy it. But I think that's how I sort of feel about Harry Kane. He would have been welcome. Liam says lock the door. He would have been very welcome to join Manchester United, but he didn't do the thing that needed to be done. He had to force the move. He had to do that. He had to go public, and he hasn't got to do that, but if he wants to sign for Manchester United, he has to do that, because Daniel Levy is basically got him wrapped up in a bear hug. He's like, you're not going anywhere, and Harry Kane needs to kick him in the nuts and try and run away. He's got to fight for it, and he won't. He's just he's lying there going, somebody help me, and we're like, it's a big bear, Harry. It's a big bear. We can't do anything about it. You've got to sort yourself out. So, look, as Fabrizio said, as a few people have said, with regards to Harry Kane, Man United are walking away. They cannot justify the amount of money that Daniel Levy would want for a player with 1 year left on his contract, and they cannot justify the time it would take to even risk trying to get him. So I actually applaud Manchester United for this. They've made the right choice. We said this a few weeks ago. If you can't get this deal done quickly, and Harry Kane's not going to push for it, and Spurs aren't giving you a little bit of glimmer, then you've got to walk away. There's no point wasting all the summer. We've made the right choice. It is a bit sad because I think he would come in and score goals. I appreciate that. But what do you want to do? You're banging your head against the brick wall. And if you haven't got a wrecking ball to whack that wall down, what's the point? Ethan says, glad we walked away from Kane. Levy would rather uphold his reputation of being difficult instead of making moves that make sense. Ethan, look, this ain't the Spurs channel. This is the United Stand. But if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be furious. I'd be like, so we're going to keep Harry Kane for 1 more year where we're not going to finish in Europe anyway, and then he's going to walk away and we don't get any money. Far better to take the 80 million now and try and spend that this summer to get back into Europe this year. They're not going to get into Europe. Harry Kane's going to walk away for nothing. That's not being clever. That's not being stubborn. That's being stupid. Let's support Faz by donating to his GoFundMe. God bless all, says M. And thank you for the great coverage over this sale process. You're the best, says Ben. And welcome to the Members Club. Andrew says pod as well. Yeah, just in relation to Faz, obviously he did some videos for us last week from his studio. It got burgled and all the stuff got stuck. So if you, he's put a tweet out and stuff like that. I'm sure we can get the link thrown in at some point towards the end of the show as well. We've made a private contribution to him anyway, but if you want to, by all means do. Goes from safe top 4 to a pure battle, says Robert McCormack. An irrelevant question, but are you a Brummie, says Aya. No. And anyway, so look, Harry Kane's out the picture. Robert McCormack's ripping his pictures down. I feel bad for Robert. But what they're going to do, Robert, I mean, I'd love to know what the pro Spurs brigade would actually do, what would actually say. There's nothing we can do. It's not about not buying Harry Kane. It's about not being able to buy Harry Kane. I think he should have pushed the move a little bit more, to be honest. With the Premier League banning leverage buyouts on its club, does that block Sir Jim Radcliffe and his office as king? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Let's stick with the striker situation. So Harry Kane's off the table. Dimarzio mentioned Manchester United and Victor Osimhen today. Jamie Jackson, who was on the United Stand yesterday, mentioned Victor Osimhen today. He is the next target. He may well have been the number 1 target. It's always been publicised that Harry Kane was the number 1 target, and apparently Erik ten Hag is very disappointed. But Victor Osimhen is definitely the second target. And there lead us into another problem. You're basically walking into the Italian version, the Italian job. Because where you've got Daniel Levy and Spurs, you've got the Napoli board and Napoli. They don't mess about. We've had Fabrizio on this show for years. He always says Napoli, because we used to talk to him about Koulibaly 2 or 3 years ago. And he'd say the problem you've got with Napoli is they're not a club that's desperate for money. And they've just won the league as well. They don't want to sell Osimhen. They don't need to sell Osimhen. And if they're going to sell Osimhen, he's not got 1 year left on his control like Pratt's at Spurs. He's got loads of years left on his contract. So if you want Victor Osimhen, they're going to charge 125 million. Million, not euros, pounds. So again, I think unfortunately for Erik ten Hag, he's moving down the list. And this is what I mean. We're all wrapped up in the sale and the Mason Mount bid, and we're going to talk about Kim Min-jae to Bayern in a minute. But the striker is the priority. What are we going to do? Harry Kane we can't get. Victor Osimhen's going to be really expensive. So, you know, we're Manchester United. We should be getting Kane or Osimhen. Have the club done enough, or is there nothing they can do? Because I'm sort of like, well, on the face of it, it doesn't look like they can do anything. But then you think, if Man City wanted a striker, they'd get Harry Kane or Victor Osimhen. Is this just a sign of Man United and why we need change? Because that's 2 strikers that we're walking away from because it can't be done. And yet both players would like to sign for Man United. So effectively, when you break it down, Osimhen and Kane would like to sign for Man United. Ten Hag would like Osimhen or Kane. But Napoli and Spurs are stronger than Man United. Like, they will resist. I just think it comes down to negotiating. I think you can get those deals done, but we're probably not good enough at doing it yet. And that's why we need a change. Because I think if Pep Guardiola and Man City needed a striker and they wanted Kane or Osimhen, they'd probably get the number one choice. And yet we might walk away from both. If Qatar wins, what do you think the budget will be? Says it's CJR. And Bruno is your favourite player, right? Which player linked to us is performing the way Bruno was when he was signed? Our standards have dropped, says Sarbish. And Andrew, welcome to the Members Club. Ethan says, I'm glad we walked away. Levy would have done that one, haven't we? So, look, I don't know what we're going to do. I actually think that if not Kane, Osimhen, then or Mbappe, then who, says Steve? This leads me on to Rasmus Hojlund. Even Fabrizio Romano, well, I say even Fabrizio, he's spoken to us about Hojlund numerous times on the channel, but he says that Hojlund's on the list. It's interesting that Fabrizio has said tonight that Harry Kane is off the list and mentioned Hojlund, because there's many players he could have mentioned. He could have mentioned Mawani. I still think Mawani's a consideration. I wouldn't take my eyes off Mawani. Ramos at Benfica, Vlahovic at Juventus. There are other players, and yet Hojlund is the name that gets mentioned. And I tell you why he's getting mentioned, because United have put a lot of work into Hojlund. They really do like him. He would like to come to United. That deal's hotter than the sun. Atalanta will do a deal with us. I just think United, the only reason I think we haven't signed Rasmus Hojlund is because of the budget. We're like, if we spend 40-50 million pounds on Hojlund, can we get another striker, another midfielder, a centre-back and a goalkeeper? And the budget is the problem. They want Hojlund. Hojlund wants to come. Atalanta will do a deal. That is an open goal for Manchester United, to go and get a player who could be one of the best strikers in the game in the next 2 years. We have to go and get that deal. And I think we will. And I think we'll be bloody idiots if we walk away. This could be as significant as Solskjaer and United messing up Haaland when he went from Salzburg to Dortmund. We can't make that mistake again. We have to go and get that deal done. I think we will get that deal done. But I think the delay is because we're just like, well, we wanted Kane. We wanted Osimhen. And I don't know that we've got the money to go and do both. So we're sort of like going, is he good enough to get as the out-and-out striker? To which the answer is no. You know, he's very, very inexperienced. But we need two strikers. Cavani wasn't replaced, Ronaldo wasn't replaced, and Martial's injury prone. We arguably need three. There's nothing coming up from the youth. I mean, Joe Hugel, Charlie McNeil, I really like those players. They're not predicted to be anywhere near the first team next year. In fact, one of them could be moved on. The other one could be loaned. So we need to go out and get two strikers. And ideally, Ten Hag wants Hojlund and a star striker, because he said to the board, there's plenty of game time for them. We're playing 3 games a week again. You know, 70 minutes, Harry Kane's not playing very well. I take him off and I bring Rasmus Hojlund on. Midweek game in the Carabao Cup, I play Rasmus Hojlund and I rest Harry Kane. One of them gets injured and I actually need another one. But Man United are like, well, the budget's challenging, Eric, but he needs 2 strikers. How would you spend our budget this window, Mark, says Shear? Well, do you consider yourself to be a YouTuber or a journalist? And also, what do you call a fly without wings? Says Joe. A fly. Well, that's a good question. Marcus Rashford, number 9, incoming. He's said himself he's always wanted to play there, and I bet Eric Ten Hag backs himself to transition Rashford successfully, says Brandon. And do you believe they've actually walked away from the deal, or just trying to make a play to try and make Spurs negotiate, says Mike. Mate, in football, a transfer is never off. You walk away from a deal, and then Spurs might pick up the phone and say, do you want to do a deal? But I think United are walking away because they know what Spurs are like. I think it is over. If Spurs pick the phone up and say, yeah, we'll do a deal, I think United will go jumping back in. I like what that previous comment was about. Sumi says, I feel if Qatar win, they have a team ready to come and take over transfers. I'm not too worried about that. Also, how do I get to grab pizza or a pint with Goldbridge in New York? Off topic, so apologies to Sumi. We got to get me in New York first. That's the first thing, but I do fancy a pizza and a pint in New York. Sounds good. All roads leading to Mason Greenwood staying, it seems, says Rory. And will this news of Premier League clubs' unanimous agreement have any bearing on Sir Jim Radcliffe, says Shivan? I'm going to, you're the third person tonight, so I'm not being rude. We're going to talk about that, but obviously there's a few things we want to talk about first. It is quite big news. Barella and Frankie de Jong is not the same profile of player, says Jay. What's a fly with no wings? Ask Westlife. But just thought of that song. Anyway, after that terrible joke, where was I? So I said, and quite rightly, Eamon McAllister says, why is everyone concerned about Daniel Levy? His reputation precedes him. He is not in power of strength. At least put the bid in, says Eamon. But he's always been trouble. He's always been trouble. He's always been stubborn as well. I'm glad we backed out from Kane early, says Dylan, rather than chase him all summer and waste time that could be spent looking at another striker. Mount solid, says Dylan. Will this done that one? Mark, do you think we could have a good season with Rashford and Hojlund as striking options, says Ricky. Didn't Inter want Lindelof or Maguire swap either for Lautaro Martinez and Spurs not getting Sancho then, says Leo J. Sean, thank you very much for being a member for 11 months. I said it, and a couple of people have said it in the chat already. Stock price warning, stock price warning, stock price warning. Tabasco says it's at $23. It was last time I checked. It's actually at $22.92, but it's stable. I'll talk about that when we talk about that leverage thing in a little bit. So I've said this a few times. Some of you don't like it. A couple of people have put a couple of super chats in about it already. What about Neuer? But I think he's too old, says Aya. No, yeah, I don't think we're going to go for Neuer. I think we will see Marcus Rashford used as a striker. AK says he's not a striker. I don't think he's a striker either, but he could become a striker. But I think he might move Rashford. Ten Hag loves Rashford. Like, every manager has a weakness, and I'm not saying liking Rashford's a weakness. I mean, Rashford's just won Player of the Year. I like Rashford, but Ten Hag will make a mistake at some point, and his insistence that Rashford's a number 9 could become a problem if Rashford doesn't kick on. Rashford's brilliant season is from the left. It's not as a striker. He's had a brilliant season from the left. I think he might try Rashford as a striker and go for Rasmus Hojlund as a younger striker to work with Rashford. That would be very risky. You've got Rashford, who is experienced but is not a striker, and then you've got Rasmus Hojlund, who is inexperienced and learning. If they both don't work for each reason, you're in trouble, aren't you? I think we need an experienced goal-scoring striker, but look, the budget can only stretch so far. Didn't we walk away from Anthony only to overpay in August, says Ray? Yes. It's always been Harry Kane. Osimhen has 4 assists and Kane will give you the same amount of goals and help Anthony and Rashford numbers too, says Charlie. Charlie's not listening to the show. Charlie's just come in with an opinion that's irrelevant. Charlie, that's unlike you. We're not saying that Harry Kane's not the right player to go for. We're talking about the fact that we can't bloody get him and we're walking away. There's nothing... It's not about whether we can get Harry Kane. It's about the right decision to walk away. So where we are with the striker situation, I don't think Spurs will change their mind, so we'll walk away from Kane. I don't think Napoli will lower the price, so we'll walk away from Osimhen. And then that leaves us in an area where we'll have to sign Rasmus Hojlund, and I think we should be doing that anyway, and we're very close to doing that. I keep telling you, that deal's hotter than the sun. I'm convinced it's going to happen soon. But I would keep an eye on Mawani. I'd keep an eye on Mawani. Unless he goes Bayern, I think Mawani is really interesting. PSG maybe. United, look, Ten Hag likes Mawani. Let's keep an eye on that. And we do need 2 strikers. We definitely do. Did you hear reports about Qatar planning wild cash injection on transfers and stadia and them slowly distancing from PSG, which makes Mbappe possible, says Mario Franco. And if the season isn't going well, we might be able to get Kane for like 40 million in January for the business end of the season and won't be cup tied, says Rory C. I don't think Spurs would do that deal. I really don't. So look, watch this space with the striker, because whether you like it or not, it is the number 1 priority. And it's sort of got a bit confusing. I don't think we're going to get Osimhen. I don't know where. I actually think, and look, this is normal for the transfer window. I actually think Osimhen will end up going to... I think Osimhen might end up being priced out of a move. It's happened before. It's happened with Napoli before, and I think it can happen again. I think Osimhen would like to move, but I can see them pricing him out of a move, really. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. In some ways, the striker situation is quite exciting because we've got to do something. Jack D says Hojlund and Mawani. I'd do that. Yeah, I would do that. I'd be quite happy to do that. Anyway, let's move on to the striker. This story that's coming out from Fabrizio and Plettigol. German reports are basically saying that Manchester United have competition. Hold on, we've had an email. Sorry, not an email. We've had a tweet come out from Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail. Man United will not meet the asking prices for Harry Kane at 100 million or Osimhen at 120. Rasmus Hojlund is a more realistic target at 40 to 60 million. I told you, when am I going to get the bloody respect this community deserves? You know, when Rasmus Hojlund signs, can people remember where we've been saying this for at least 3 weeks, that this deal is hot and it's going to happen? I literally said it at the start of the week. Like, Rasmus Hojlund, Man United are up to their... No, I can't say that. Man United are up to their neck in this. They're absolutely in the pool. They're swimming. Like, they want this deal. It's this. When I say the deal's hotter than the sun's bloody boiling. Like, you know, this deal for Hojlund, I'm telling you, this is going to happen. And I don't normally do that. So read between the lines. The last time I did this was Alexis Sanchez, and we were absolutely spot on. So let's wait and see what happens with that. It's coming out more and more. We should go and get Vlahovic from Juventus, says Darren. I don't think we're even in for Vlahovic. Never say never. I remember when Levy said he would never sell Dimitar Berbatov, and on August the 31st it happened. But we can't do that, Glennie. I think that's the reason United are moving away. We can't. Does anybody think we should do that? Would anybody wait? Here we go. Let me ask this. This is on a poll. So a lot of people would you wait? Would you wait till August 31st for Kane? If I said to you, we'll get Harry Kane, but he won't go on pre-season and he'll miss the first 3 or 4 games of the season, but we'll get him on August the 31st, would you do it? Because for me, that's a flat no. I wouldn't wait. You know, we need a striker on... we need a striker on the pre-season tour. We need a striker, you know, for the start of the season. I think that's why United are making an intelligent and a mature decision, because they're actually going, we can't wait that long for a striker. We you know, the start to the season last year was shit because we weren't ready. We can't do that again. Is Hojlund in the 90% club? I'm not putting him in the 90% club, Salim, because I can't risk it. I worry about the 90% club. Mason Mount's in the 90% club at the moment. Maybe Eric Ten Hag will go back in for Brian Brobby, says Leo J. Could do. At the moment, it's not. It's very quiet on that. But as I say, and I'll keep saying it, and a lot of people are saying it now anyway, but we were first. Keep your eye on Rasmus Hojlund. It's hotter than the sun. Right, Bayern Munich want Kim Min-jae. From positives to potential negatives. What are we saying? Kim Min-jae, Bayern Munich, definitely want him. This is we've sort of not picked up on this, have we? We knew that PSG were interested. We know that Newcastle are interested. It's logical that a lot of other clubs would be interested. Well, one of those clubs is Bayern Munich. They want Kim Min-jae. Fabrizio's confirmed it tonight. Plettigol's mentioned it. It's over. It's quite a big story tonight that Kim Min-jae is wanted by Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich are a little bit concerned about the work that Man United have done. I don't think they need to be massively concerned. Apparently Bayern Munich want Casido as well, which is quite funny because on my FIFA career mode I did loan Casido to Bayern Munich. It's irrelevant. But Bayern Munich are always a pain. Bayern Munich are always a pain in the arse. Like when they got Gravenberch last year, I quite liked him. They've just gone and got Lehmer, I quite liked him. They are a big club that play in a one-horse league. And, but Dortmund took it to the final day. Who won? Who won it last year? Who won it the year before? Who's going to win it next year? I like Bayern Munich, but they are a bit of a non-entity in relation to when they come and get players that we like. Because the Bundesliga, they could buy me and I'll win a title. So it's really about the Champions League for Bayern Munich, isn't it? And I just hope Kim Min-jae wants Man United, because there's a real opportunity for him at United. But you know what concerns me? Welcome to the members club, Thutu. And also, Angry Brits gifted 10 memberships. What a legend of the chat. I'd buy Hojlund now and go for another target first and then see what the budget or deal could be done in August, says James. Good point. It's a massive responsibility for Hojlund to lead the line, given his experience. If he signs, I believe we would be forced to keep Martial, says Charlie. Well, we may well be forced to do that anyway, mate, when you think about it. I think so. But look, you know what worries me about Bayern Munich? The way this transfer window is setting up, United will not be spending more than 120 million. You heard it here first, says Max. Well, Max, we're going to have a head-to-head because you heard it here first. We'll spend 200 million because I can't back down. I've said this for weeks. Man United, I think I said it 2 weeks ago. Keep the receipts. Man United will spend 200 million. So Max is saying 120. I'm saying 200. I've said clip it up. We'll spend 200 million this summer. I guarantee you we will. Guarantee it. It's a Goldbridge seal of approval. It's definitely going to happen. So, look, my concern about Kim Min-jae to Bayern Munich is Bayern Munich have a massive reputation. They're a massive club. And whilst I wouldn't sign for Bayern, I like Bayern, but I just don't really see the point in the Bundesliga. What worries me about Bayern Munich and Kim Min-jae is that Kim Min-jae comes to Manchester United. He's got a battle with Varane to get that spot, and that's not easy. He goes to Bayern, he basically plays because Upamecano isn't good enough. I nearly said something else, but Upamecano was crap in the Champions League, wasn't he? So he goes straight into the team, and that's a bit of a concern. So look, I want us to get Kim Min-jae. I'd actually say this right here, right now. If we get that deal over the line, I think it can be symbolic of a good summer transfer window. He is available at a very good price because of his release clause. If we get that deal done, that is a really good deal. And it could be symbolic of a good summer for United. If that slips through our fingers because Bayern Munich come in, I'm sorry. That's just, another example of how bad we are at transfers because we're just losing to another club that we should be winning to. We might get Upamecano for a steal, same price as Kim Min-jae, and what a player. Did you see those City games, says Rory? Yeah, we don't want to go anywhere near him at all. It doesn't matter how much we spend. What matters is how we spend it. And also, we'll end up with no one coming in or out. I don't agree with all that. I used to say that 2 or 3 years ago. I don't agree with that. I mean, no way are we going to have a summer where we don't buy and sell. We will. This is why the ownership needs to be sorted out, says CeeLo. We need to revamp before pre-season starts. What happened to Sesko? Says C. Well, Sesko, what did happen to Sesko? I mean, he's had a very quiet season, hasn't he? I mean, I can't even acknowledge that. What's the other guy? Oh, God. What's the other guy? Salzburg. Not Sesko. Okafor. Is it Okafor? I quite like the look of him. It's gone quite. I don't know whether it's the league they play in or what, but they, there's not been much coverage of them really, and I'm not going to go searching to watch games from that league. But Sesko's going to Leipzig, isn't he? That deal was done a while ago, so yeah. I don't think that Sesko really is a player that United are going to look at because he's going to go to Leipzig, isn't he? That was a pre-agreed deal. So look, yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, look, Newcastle being linked to Barella. You can stand under my umbrella. I mean, there's 2 problems with that. One, why are Newcastle being linked to Barella? I want Barella. Oh, I love Barella. I've always liked Barella. I liked him before he went to bloody Inter. Now, I always get him mixed up with Tonali. One of them was at... Oh, I always forget where they were. One of them was at Cagliari or something. I think the other one was at Brescia. Which one was it? Which one was it? But I like Barella. I do like Barella. And the fact that there's 2 problems with that. One, Newcastle would have given us 30 million for McTominay in January. And 2, it looks like they might not get McTominay now. So we'll keep McTominay and they'll get Barella. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, that. 82% of you wouldn't wait till August the 31st for Kane. 18% of you would. There we go. Barella was at Cagliari and I can't pronounce their name. There we go. Tonali was at Brescia. I always get those 2 mixed up. Hi, Mark. Are you bolding? No, definitely not. 1. I wouldn't be bothered if I was because I'd just pay for a rug. But No, my dad was going bold in his mid-20s, so I thought it was going to happen to me. But considering, no, my hair's been like this since I was 25. It's not even receding. We should challenge Newcastle for Barella instead of Mount. If we can get him for under 50 million, Barella suits the position better than Mount. Alex, you're talking to the converted here. I did want to talk about the midfield, actually. Makuku swap with Sancho, smart business, says Charlie Max. There's lots of smart business to be done, isn't there? There is a lot of smart business to be done. But I was thinking tonight, actually, I had to go and pick Seb up from football, and I was driving there in the car on my own, and I was thinking about Mason Mount because I'd just done the video, which is on the channel if you want to watch it. And, I'm a big fan of Erik ten Hag, and I was sort of thinking, well, I do think Mason Mount's a decent player. I'm not opposed to this deal, and I support Erik ten Hag. So if he wants Mason Mount, let's do it. That's my stance. People can disagree, they can agree. But what I did think is, because I listen to the chat and I read the chat, it's very clear to me that with Mason Mount, looking at the community, there's a bit of a split. Some of you just really don't want that deal. That's dangerous. Ten Hag has to get this right and convert the doubters, because I'm converted. I'm happy to trust Ten Hag. I think Mason Mount is a good player that can get better. But it's always dangerous when you buy a player that people aren't sure about, because there's not a lot of patience there. You look at Anthony. Look at the external noise around Anthony. They're desperate to call him a flop, but most United fans like Anthony and are willing to be patient. You look at the way Fellaini was. I mean, look, a lot of people didn't want Fellaini. I didn't want Fellaini, and there wasn't a lot of patience for him. And he ended up with a bit of a cult following, with an L. I didn't say an N. And but the majority just didn't take to Fellaini. So Ten Hag's got to be careful with Mount, because he's not a massively popular signing. He's got to get it right. And the other problem is going to be Rabiot, because Rabiot's not going to be a massively popular signing either. And that's got to go right. So there's, remember what I said? Let me just read this out because it'll go flying through. Alan, welcome to the Members Club. Mojo's just gifted 20 memberships. You're an absolute legend, Mojo. Barella for 50 million, not possible. We should get Barella, Wirtz and Kane for our midfield. I can't wait for this Qatar saga to end, says Mr. Incredible. It's interesting because I've always said to you that, I've said this for years, any manager, whether it's Sir Alex Ferguson, Pep Guardiola, Erik ten Hag, if you take all their transfers, and you know what, I'd love to get paid to do this. Imagine if this was your job. You go into work in tomorrow morning and they say, right, your job today is Maurizio Pochettino. I want you to go through his whole career, list all his transfers, and then analyse each player and decide whether they were a success or a flop. And then I want you to percentage how many have been a success. Tomorrow, you're doing Jose Mourinho. What a job. What a life. So, no manager will be above 70%. Which means, and a lot of them will be below 50%. Which means that every transfer you do, it's accepted in the industry that for every transfer you do, every 10 transfers, 3, 4, 5 of them will flop. This is the problem Ten Hag got this summer, because last summer I think it went really, really well. He will have flops. Everybody has flops. We don't think there'll be flops. We get excited by every transfer. I remember when we bought Schneiderlin and Schweinsteiger. Oh, it's brilliant. They both flopped. Like Di Maria flopped. Loads flop. So Ten Hag's got to get it right this summer, because if Mason Mount doesn't work out and Rabiot doesn't work out, they're not really popular signings anyway. So he's got to get it absolutely right. And that's why you back Ten Hag, and that's why you back his signings, because, he is, like any manager, there will be mistakes. Jose says, for me, it's not that I don't want Ten Hag to get Mount. It's that we need a Casemiro-type player more. The drop-off when he doesn't play is too much. I think Jose, as boring as it might be, I think Rabiot's the player they're going to go for. I think the reason, it's really sad to say this, but Declan Rice is going to go to Arsenal. Casido's probably going to go to Chelsea, and we're going to buy Rabiot. And that worries me, because Rabiot's 28, Casemiro's 31, And we do not have a midfielder coming through at the moment like a Nicky Butts or someone like that. We don't have a real defensive-minded midfielder. That doesn't mean that somebody can't be converted to that. You know, maybe Daniel Gore could be if he's going to be good enough. I don't think Mainoo's going to be that type of player. But we don't have anybody coming through. And is this a reason to keep Scott McTominay? Because we keep being told he's the youngest midfielder we've got. McTominay shouldn't be staying at Man United because he's popular and liked and 26. He should be moved off because he's not good enough. But I can see Rabiot, I can see Casemiro, and I can see Scott McTominay being kept. And Scott McTominay will be living off scraps. You know, he's not going to get any game time unless there's injuries. And we should be looking at Declan Rice, because if Arsenal get Declan Rice, he's going to be there for the next 8 years and he's going to get better and better. And if Chelsea get Caicedo, he's going to be there for the next 8 years and then they get better and better. What's the long-term plan for our midfield? Because it's a very old midfield at the moment. Kian, welcome to the Members Club. Cattle, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club as well. Mark, just top of my head, what about Guardiola? I can't remember any of his signings being bad, says Nickett. Oh, mate, there are. I mean, I'm not a Man City fan, but he had a couple of goalkeepers, didn't he, before he got to Edison? He had a few right-backs as well. Didn't he have Danilo? He had the left-back as well. What was his name, that left-back? He played against us. He plays in Spain. Oh, I can't remember his bloody name. Guess Veghorst spoiled Erik ten Hag's transfer success. Well, I don't really count loanees, Mojo. Other managers have the benefit of good scouting and recruiting teams. How can Erik ten Hag be expected to do that mostly on his own? So Stephen, look, people take it as a negative, as a criticism. Everybody has flops. I mean, look at Sir Alex Ferguson. Countless flops. Loads of flops. It's just the way it goes. Calvin Phillips is a flop for Man City, yeah. And Pep's had loads of flops. Everybody does it. Mourinho does it. It's accepted in the industry that you will have at least 30% of your signings will be a flop. It's just the way it goes. It should come down. It should come down because Angelino, that was it. Angelino. Mendy, that's another one. Bravo flop for Pep. Everybody does it. Everybody does it. Stephen Rossi says other managers have the benefit of good scouting. How you've done that one? You're absolutely spot on. Mark, you just want Kim Min-jae so Maguire can go. You're not even giving him a chance. Says Galacticos. Yeah, you're right, mate. I haven't given Harry Maguire a fair chance, mate. You know the best thing about Harry Maguire, right, is that there is a tweet that comes out every now and again from rival fans where when we signed Harry Maguire, I said we're definitely getting one of the top 5 centre-backs in the world. Don't tell me I haven't given Harry Maguire a chance. I got behind that deal. I backed that deal. I was like, let's give him a chance. He's looked good for England. No. We've given him a chance. He can have his P45 now. Maguire to City would have been a flop, says CGI. And Mark, please say Miles is a prat, says one. Well, there you go. We need to get some players out the door. Andrew says, in relation to Washington Commanders, they were sold on Thursday the 13th of April. Sale still waiting on approval from NFL owners. Hopefully Glazers sell soon. Look, don't get excited about this, but there is rumours that tomorrow's going to be the day. But look. The other night when it broke, I didn't go live for an hour because I was making calls and doing WhatsApps. They're people I trust. They're good, credible people that you see on Twitter and stuff all the time. Tomorrow, a deal happening. None of them are saying that. That's just a few people with a feeling. I've got a feeling that tomorrow the deal's going to be done. I don't think so. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. As for Sir Alex Ferguson, does anyone remember Beppe? Says Ray. Yep, we do. Beppe, Kleberson, Jemba, Obertan, a few goalkeepers, Taibi. I think Barthez was a bit of a flop. Remember Fabian Barthez playing for Man United? I personally think he was a bit of a flop. to be honest with you. But then we had a few, Veron. We had a few people flop that I didn't want. I was sad that when we bought Juan Sebastian Veron, from Lazio, I was just like, what a player. What a player. I absolutely loved him anyway. And yeah, I was like, we're going to have Veron, Scholes, Beckham, Keane and Giggs. How's this going to work? Didn't work. Just didn't work. Anyway, let's have a little bit of a touch on the sale. If people want to talk about that. So effectively, what's happening with the sale is nothing. Nothing's happening with that at the moment. Everybody's talking about Hojlund now. I'll jump on the bandwagon. You're all welcome. I've got plenty of seats. We were first. Been saying it for a long time. Everyone's starting to do it now. Hotter than the sun. That's all I'm going to say. Man United decide against formal approach for Harry Kane. This is from Laurie Whitwell. Eric Ten Hag's top choice for experienced number 9, but Daniel Levy's refusal to sell means exploratory talks will not be continued. Real Madrid are still interested. So yeah, United have pulled out of that because Spurs just being Spurs. Harry Kane should have handed in a transfer request, but that's his choice. Doesn't have to do that. So there was a vote today by all the Premier League clubs to stop there being leverage buyouts by owners. Now, what does that mean? Would you have Calvin Phillips from City? I thought Nani was a flop as well. No, Nani wasn't a flop, Darren. No. I don't agree with Barthez. I loved him when he was young, says John. I think he was a flop at United. And James says, if Qatar wins the bid and end up owning us, can you please have a green and yellow background as celebration? Please. Love your content, my friend, says James. Thank you, James. Fergie bought Dong as well, says Raz. Yeah. Sign players like Liao and Adeyemi, they lack fear and have the right mentality, says Ricky. And remember Dong as well. Manusio, William Prunier, says Red since 1975. And my problem with the most Mount signing is I can't remember a standout game he's had, club and country. I can with even Rabiot. I will back him though, says K Flo. I'm scared if we get someone like Mateta, Chris Wood, Luke de Jong or Calvert-Lewin, says Aya. Oh God, not Calvert-Lewin. Not Calvert-Lewin. You know why a lot of people flop though? And I think that Brighton do it really, really well. I'm going to talk about that leverage bit in a minute. Have you been into Rams Hojlund's DMs? I have got no comments, Ali. But what I was going to say, United stand hotter than the sun t-shirts, says G Linguistics. Brighton do it really, really well. And I think that the modern day, you should be signing less flops. Because if you look at Martinez and Anthony, Ten Hag knows them because he's managed them before. So the chances of them flopping are really based on their inability to adapt to the Premier League, not because of their personality. I think a lot of players flop because they don't fit the profile of the club. You look at Di Maria, fantastic player who never wanted to be here. We were a get out. He wanted to go to PSG. He had to come to United. You should never do a deal like that. You shouldn't do a deal like that. You shouldn't buy a player that really doesn't want to come because there's a mentality problem there. And I think a lot of players do flop because clubs don't do their homework. We've made this mistake countless times in the last decade. We go and buy a player because, they're a good player, but we don't do enough work on the mental side of the game. Like, what are they like? What's their attitude? Does their head drop when things are going bad? Are they a destructive influence? Are they a positive influence? And I think that's something that Brighton have done very, very well at. Because Brighton are not a big club, but these players keep coming in and they've got the right attitude. So that's something that United need to look at and get right. And hopefully, we need that because we've got a lot of players that don't have the right attitude. As a Danish guy, I can say that Rasmus Hojlund is a class player and will be a great prospect at United, says Robert. If I were McTominay, I would be signing for Everton or Bournemouth. Guaranteed first-team football, says Graham. We can sell Sancho for St. Maximum, says Aya. It's never going to happen. So this leveraged buyout thing that the Premier League have voted for, some people are getting really excited about it. Basically, it's a rule that should have come in a long time ago. Do you think Vidic from Spartak Moscow was one of the biggest bargains, says Matt? Blink twice if you've spoken to Hojlund, says Starvin. I'm going to blink naturally anyway. I thought leverage buyouts were banned already shortly after the Glazers, says Rory C. Well, this is it. So basically, the Premier League clubs today have voted unanimously to stop leverage buyouts of Premier League clubs who don't have proof of funds, etc. But this was reportedly already the case when Chelsea were bought a year ago. What a leverage buyout is when you're buying a club on debt, which is what the Glazers did. So, yeah, I don't think it makes a massive amount of difference because the Glazers bought Man United without spending a penny. They got huge. They instantly threw us into debt. They leveraged Manchester United's revenue to buy the club. They basically used the value of Man United to get the loan to get the club and keep it in debt. That's not allowed. That's not the same as what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to do. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to buy Manchester United by taking debt on Ineos and buying Man United and paying off the Glazers. He is not going to loan the money to himself to buy Manchester United from Manchester United. So I don't really think it would happen anymore. And it's long overdue that rule came in from the Premier League. But it won't stop Sir Jim Ratcliffe buying Manchester United because Manchester United will be bought. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe buys Manchester United, one, he's not buying all of the club anyway. And two, he is going to find the money to pay for it from private means. And that's just like me buying a house tomorrow and borrowing the money from HSBC. There's no concern on the buyer's part because I've given you the money. There it is. So it wouldn't impact on Sir Jim. It would only impact as if this rule had been in place 25 years ago. Mark, great to catch you live. Exciting knowing that I'm seeing your lips move in real time. Says Daniel. Hojlund would be a great signing. Also, Mark, what happened with Gravenberch deal? Backing Mason Mount to United. Versatile player. Lots there. I spoke about Gravenberch at lunchtime. He wants to either stay or go. He wants to play first team football next year. I think Ten Hag would take Gravenberch. I've not heard anything about him at the moment. My feeling at the moment is that it'll be Rabiot and Mount in the midfield. Kevin says, where did you hear the rumours of sale being announced tomorrow? Says Kevin. Where do you think? Where do you think, Kevin? Twitter. Yeah, just a few people on Twitter. Look, 2 + 2 is 4, right? Mike Keegan said there's still hope that the deal could be done by the end of the week. A lot of people said at the weekend there's hope that the deal can be done this week. It's Wednesday night. Thursday or Friday, take your pick. So a lot of people are saying Thursday. There's no logic to it. I don't think it's going to happen before the weekend, to be honest. I really don't feel like it is going to happen before the weekend. But Thursday is tomorrow. Friday is the day after. I hope it does happen. In relation to the stock price, it's at $23.20, and the New York Stock Exchange is about to close in the next half an hour. So it's, the funny thing about that is, right, people who don't want it to be true, will say that the share price has gone up because people think something's going to happen because of the fake tweets on Tuesday night. That's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. That share price has stabilised and at a very high price compared to where it's been for the last month. And that is because there is a lot of rumours going around that Qatar are going to buy Manchester United. That's why the share price is where it's at. There's no insider information. There's no confirmation. There's no keeping the deal done because they want to do it on a Thursday and everyone learn how to play the piano. The deal hasn't officially been done yet, but as I keep saying, I think Qatar are 2-0 up with 10 minutes to go. And therefore, I think a lot of people are moving and thinking that it's inevitable. By the way, Avram Glazer's ridiculous ponytail is reflective of how he handles the club's affairs, says James. Hi Mark, why doesn't Jim doesn't know what they're doing, Cliff, know that United was regressing because of the Glazers and still he keeps them? I'm astounded, says Arya. If we're going for Rabiot on a free, why aren't we looking at Thuram on a free as a second striker, says Barrel Shot. Well, Thuram the striker, the French striker, who's available on a free, where's he going? I mean, he was playing in the World Cup for France at the weekends, in November. I mean, you know, I wouldn't really want United to get him because I think that's an admission that we've got no bloody money. But we could have got him for 10 million in January, and we couldn't even raise that. So I don't really want us to go for Thuram because it's a bit like going for Tielemans. I didn't want Tielemans because he was free. I'd want Tielemans because he was good enough for United, and I don't think he is. So it's the same with Thuram for me. I don't think he's a bad player, but we'd be going for him because he's free. Which is exactly what we're doing with Rabiot. I think we're going for Rabiot because he's free. Do you really think Erik ten Hag would pay £50 million for him if he had 3 years left on his deal? I don't think he would. What are your thoughts about Enzo Lefebvre as a possible midfield option? So Stephen, I think he's a hipster choice. I don't think we're in for him. Rohit says, would you take Rashi, Hojlund, Mawani, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho as our front six? Erik ten Hag likes to adapt and tweak. This six will give him options and variety. Don't forget Ahmad, Rohit, but it looks good to me. At around noon American time, the share price hit $23.74, says Mojo. Let's see. Let's just wait and see what happens. Yeah, I think there's a lot going on at the moment. You might have seen my video earlier about the Mason Mount bid. So we're actively bidding for Mason Mount. We've still got the backdrop of the sale. What's happening with the striker? So there's a lot. You know, it's not a quiet time for Manchester United at the moment. So let's just wait and see. If Sir Jim buys Man United, the Glazers will never go, says Ryan. I sort of agree with you on that one. I like Mawani, Emil. Keep an eye on Mawani. He's always been a player that Ten Hag likes. Keep an eye on him. But Rasmus Hojlund, I'm convinced that's going to happen from what I know. Don't forget, we've been sponsored by Manscaped. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. 20% off and free worldwide shipping. This will be one of the best things you ever buy. Absolutely fantastic bit of kit. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the morning show at 10 o'clock. Obviously, if anything happens before then, we'll go live. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. I'll speak to you all a bit later. Another fantastic 8 o'clock show. I love it in the summer. They're always a good vibe. Speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.